exactly. He doesn't know why, and he's just kind of training and slugging away. And when he finally gets released, he's going to massacre everybody. And that's how I feel about my ability to string words together and my technical ability. I feel like most MCs I can massacre, and that's that's where the name came from.
I can see that. Your pen game is very sharp.
You are now listening to the sounds of
So joining us now, somebody that we've been very excited to talk to, somebody that we just recently discovered within the last year or two, us being big fans of Sage Francis and Strange Famous music. He is somebody that is under the label Strange Famous. We've played his music on here, we've talked him up, and now we have him here to talk for himself. Give it up for the one and only Oldboy Rhymes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, brother. Thank you for joining us. Oh, Strange Famous on the spot.
Yo, how's it going?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us on your Saturday morning or Friday night.
Yo, Oldboy, we don't have to get into where you're located exactly now, but from what I've kind of researched and found out, you were born and raised in Alaska. Is that correct?
Wow.
Raised, kind of. So I was born in Anchorage, but I grew up outside of Anchorage, about an hour's drive in a really small area called Chugiak. And when I was 10, I actually moved to Jakarta. And it's a bit more of a longer story than that, in that my dad actually grew up in Southeast Asia. So when my dad was a baby, believe it or not, they took a boat from the U.S. Heading to Burma, and they got rerouted to Malaysia because my grandfather was a missionary. So 1960, my family moved to Southeast Asia. My dad basically lived on the edge of a jungle. My grandfather built a church in Malaysia, and then they moved to Singapore. And my dad went back to the States for university and whatnot, and he ended up getting a job up in Alaska, which is why I was born there. And he always wanted to go back abroad. So when I was 10, we moved to Jakarta, which is pretty much the polar opposite of Alaska, right? You go from desolate and quiet and tranquil and clean to pure chaos and pollution and smells and tropics and all of that.
Living in Alaska, were you living in an area where it's constantly sunlight for months on end? Or were you in the normal area of Alaska or is that even a thing? Or are they always doing that months where the sun doesn't go down? Is that I'm not familiar with Alaska.
Part, but yeah,
you know what I mean? Were you in an area like that?
Yeah, I don't think there's a normal area of Alaska. It's a pretty extreme.
Yeah.
spot. So my brother was actually still living there until about 2 or 3 years ago. My older brother. Now he's back over in Asia. He got tired of the darkness and kind of the extreme Republicans that were surrounding him in his industry that he was dealing with. It wasn't good for his mental health. But I still have nephews up there. When I was a kid, we'd go into public school at 8:30 in the morning and it'd be dark. You come out at 2 p.m. It's dark. The winters are pretty hardcore, but on the flip side, during the summer, right, it's
cracking.
Yeah.
It's probably awesome sometimes. At night, it's probably the party just goes. You're like, what time is it? Who knows, man? It's just going.
You usually find a lot of areas like that have a lot of good artists and art come out of them because you're inside for so much of the time and you have to find stuff to do with your time. Like you see a lot of northeast and northwestern artists that come from rough areas where the weather is bad for 6 months of the year, and you see that their art progresses. When did you start getting into music and start thinking that this is something that you wanted to do? Started rapping, and who were your influences to get you started?
Yeah, man. Well, first I'm going to plug a track. I have a new project coming out in a few months, and there's a song on there where we flip the perception of Alaska. Right? I spent a huge part of my life outside of the U.S. I'm still outside of the U.S., but growing up, still to this day, when I tell people I'm born in Alaska, it's like igloos and Eskimos and moose and fishing and salmon. It's like, so we have a song on there where we actually paint the true picture of Alaska, which is high teen pregnancy, high suicide rates, high drug addiction, people armed to the teeth. Like there's a lot of grit and craziness to that place. But when did I first start rapping? Well, I started taking it seriously maybe more in high school, but the very first time I ever tried to perform, I was in 2nd grade in Alaska, and me and 2 buddies signed up for a talent show. And we helped write the lyrics, but there was a main guy who was the vocalist, and me and my homie were pretty much just backing him up. Well, the main dude, his dad got arrested the day of the performance, so he didn't show up to school. And this is probably where I got my initial stage fright. They forced us on the stage anyway. We didn't know the lyrics. The curtain opens up. The entire fucking school is standing there. It's crickets, right? And I stepped on the mic. I said the first few words that I knew, and I just bolted off the stage. So I didn't try again until, maybe high school in Indonesia. And, back in that era, it was like really slow dial-up internet in Southeast Asia, and you couldn't get quick access to all the hip-hop you could in the States. And so it was almost more sacred in a sense. We would all dig, right? And our friends would come back from the States, and they'd bring Atmosphere, Sage Francis, or you name it, Rozelle, Mindclouders, all these guys. And we had a small subculture in our crew who were mainly kind of westernized kids who were growing up over there. And probably 15 or 16 is when I really just became enraptured with lyricism. Like I couldn't go to sleep listening to hip hop because I would just fixate on the lyrics. And I've always been into the pen game side of things.
At that age, were you always Oldboy Rhymes, or were you young man Rhymes at that time?
Well, spiritually, I've basically been an old man most of my life, which is part of where the moniker comes from. At that point, though, my very first MC name in the crew I had with one of my homies who's now a very famous skater, my nickname was Faded Apostle, because when we were 15 and 16, this wasn't like growing up in the States. This is Southeast Asia. There's no rules. We're going to nightclubs, the most hardcore partying you can possibly imagine. And at the age of 15 or 16, the Faded Wasted Apostle kind of seemed like the right moniker.
That's a tight name. I actually like that name a lot. Faded Apostle. That's cool.
So you were able to get some United States underground hip hop like Sage and Atmosphere, you're saying. What was it like? Obviously, you were a fan of Sage then. What was it like connecting with them and becoming a label mate with them and, becoming friends essentially now? What was that journey like? Because obviously, we were kind of raised in that era. Yeah. We were in high school in 2003 when Sage was touring a lot and seen him live, and so huge fan. So I couldn't imagine what it would be like to work with them, become friends with them. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
And on top of you saying that, it had to be like smuggling drugs back. When you brought back albums and you never heard them, people never seen them, you're like, bro, check this out. It had to be so like niche, like you know what I mean, like bringing drugs back home, like secret hip hop that no one's ever seen. It's got to be crazy.
Legal drugs.
Yeah.
For real, we didn't need to smuggle drugs because in Southeast Asia, then you could get access to absolutely everything. We had to smuggle hip hop. And, that's back in the era still of kind of some heads would bring mixtapes, or you'd make compilation CDs, you download all this shit. And we were just ravenous for it. But to answer your question around Sage, I've said it before when other people have talked to me, but, on Sane Asylum, as you guys have covered on a couple of reviews, I got to work and collaborate with a lot of these legends who I grew up, admiring and all of that. And all of them have been fucking super supportive and really cool and down to earth. But I was saying to Sage yesterday, he may be the only non-shady fucking person in the music industry.
Wow,
Sage is
super nice. Yeah.
as legit and humane and transparent and supportive, but also realistic. The reason I initially reached out to him about maybe collaborating on the album is I saw an interview he did, I think for like PBS or some shit in Rhode Island. And when they asked, give some advice to aspiring artists, and he's like, look, you're not going to make money from your passion. Let me just set the reality. And when I heard him talking transparently and open like that, I feel like this guy's a cool dude. And he is how he is. I talk to him every day. I probably blow up his phone more than anybody else on Strange Famous Records. But that's more because I'm recording and writing every day. I'm just like an output machine. And he's super receptive, man. Sage is awesome.
And a very smart guy, too.
Yeah, he's super nice, too. When we talk to him, he seems so down to earth. Doesn't seem like he's out of touch with trying to be. He's just super cool. He's nice.
Somebody, like you said, somebody who's been around the block. He's toured a lot, put out a lot of music, so he's been there, kind of seen it. He's been on, Epitaph, what's a big record label, and he's kind of seen it and been there and done that. And like you said, I think it's awesome how he helps out not just up and coming artists or people that are getting their shot, but also people that have been in the game for a long time that, you know, are like, hey, we want to help you put out some music. So that's always good to see artists helping artists.
And anytime we've ever seen him in real life too, like when I've talked to him and met him at shows, good guy, man, all around nice. Yeah. Wants to chill back, wants to bullshit with you. He's cool as fuck.
He takes care of the fans.
That Epitaph album you mentioned, I think it's the same one. That cover, he just told me this a couple months ago. That cover was designed by the guy who created the Obama Hope poster.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember the.
You get to talk to Sage, like he hits you with all these random stories. He's got stories about Eminem and like just shit you wouldn't believe. Like,
a healthy distrust is the name of the album. If I'm not
what
mistaken.
was the dude's name that made that Obama?
What's the hope? I don't remember what that looked like. The Hope thing.
Because he did
It was very famous when he was first running.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
The Healthy Distrust is a crazy, cluttery, fucking wild.
Shepherd
Ferry. Yeah, he was a graffiti artist. He also did the
very famous,
the Andre the Giant one.
Right.
Obey. He
does Obey. Yeah. Okay.
Coincidentally, in the track I did with Myka 9 that you guys covered,
Lift Off is sick.
Shepherd Ferry in his lyrics.
Oh, yeah.
Myka first.
How was it like working with Myka 9? Super chill, super easy.
One of the best.
Best to do it. I mean, it had to be effortless.
Super. Obviously, he's an originator, right? OG, Grammy nominated. You can watch Snoop Dogg and Exhibit, and everybody give him praise on that Netflix documentary. I mean, Myka's the man. And in that verse, I stated to Sage afterward, I guarantee you, he's the only rapper that's ever put the word river tortoise in a fucking verse.
Yeah, he's a lyrical instrument. Yeah, he has a lyrical instrument on him. He literally rides a beat.
People talk about vocabulary.
Right.
Myka 9 really stretches vocabulary to another level. Like some
tears
of
it.
Yeah, his multis are always like super unique, like that. You know, river tortoise. Like no one's gonna ever fucking throw that in. But I guarantee it was like a multi that he was like, oh, this fits perfect. Throw it in.
Yeah. And sometimes it sounds like word salad, but if you actually just like slow down and process and try to get the abstract connections he's making, there is actually a picture that he's painting, even in some of the more complex schemes, you know.
For sure.
Yeah, he dances on the beat so fucking elegantly with his lyrics, like so elegantly. Like he ride, like I said, he rides it like a wave. It's the only way I can explain it.
He can get on any beat, dude. Yeah. Getting more into the Sane Asylum, which was dropped August of last year, still a very fresh album, around 6 months old. I mean, it's literally a no-skip album from top to bottom. Very good. It meshes very well together, and you can do anything listening to that album: workout, cruise, party, just chill and write. You know, it's super awesome. Produced fully by Mopes, except for Liftoff was produced by Gel. Were you a fan of Mopes when he was going under the moniker of Prolific back in the day?
No. So two things about it. One, there is one other track that's not produced by Mopes.
Okay.
Most people don't seem to realize this. There's an interlude on there that I say featuring Tom Thumb.
Got it. Okay. You're right.
Tom Thumb's maybe top 2 or 3 beatboxers all time. You could maybe say he's the GOAT. The guy is an insane beatboxer. So that actual beat, every layer, every instrument's a vocal sample from Tom Thumb.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Which is really dope. But, really crazy about Mopes, to be honest. I wasn't familiar with him at all under Prolific or anything. Sage linked us up. And what's really trippy, I posted about this at some point, but his ex's brother used to date my brother's ex-wife in Indonesia.
What a small world, man.
Yeah, his ex, so I think either his ex-wife or ex-girlfriend or something, she at one point lived in Singapore, I believe, and her brother ended up going to the same high school as us in Jakarta.
That's crazy.
And older than me, so he's around my brother's age, and he was dating who eventually became my brother's wife.
That's crazy.
That's amazing.
That's crazy.
That's a small.
Twice removed,
world,
second cousin, twice removed. Coming to the wedding.
That is the legit.
That's wild.
That is legit. The
small
world.
Yeah, definition.
Can't get any smaller than that.
Jakarta, of all places, and to know them high school. That's pretty wild, dude.
You on this new album, you have a track on there with a Bay Area artist, Locksmith. Mm-hmm. You have some Bay Area roots. Talk a little bit about because we're here in Northern California. We're right outside of Stockton, Sacramento area. Talk a little bit about your Bay Area roots, and Locksmith as well is a legend out here, somebody that we've been listening to for a long time.
Oh, Locksmith's the man, right? He's right up there, the top tier pin game. I have huge respect for him. I think you may have seen Sage just posted that he's going to be headlining an event with Locksmith in April.
I saw that.
In California, in Ontario, California. But yeah, when I was 18, I went back to San Francisco for university, and probably I'd say 20, 25 of my homies who grew up with me in Jakarta, we all ended up going back to college in San Francisco. So you had a bunch of kind of Americans walking around on the bus, but we're all speaking Bahasa Indonesia, and front to company, they had no idea what we're saying. And yeah, got into the scene more there, obviously, like Amoeba Records on Haight Street, saw so many shows from Idea to Atmosphere. I saw Mortal Technique there. Yeah, you name it, Gift of Gab and Lyrics Born and all those guys, right? And the Bay Area has such a deep history for all different styles of hip hop. Like there's such a wide variety of hip hop there, from obviously the hyphy music to everything that the OGs did back in the early 90s. Yeah, it's a really, really rich culture. And, I started taking it more seriously then, probably to my own detriment. I didn't go to school. I like to rhyme and party, got into a lot of fights, got kicked out of school. Had to get my shit together after a couple of years. Went back to City College in San Francisco to raise my GPA from what was basically an F to something resembling a GPA to get back into a regular school. And basically it took my wife, I think, 3 years to get 2 degrees. It took me 6 years to get 1. So that's how.
You had a fun time doing it, though.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's a cool place. I always thought at some point, if I had enough money, I would like to move back there. But I have to say, last time I was there, like within 24 hours, I had a crackhead throw a pipe at my mother-in-law. Like saw a couple women taking a shit in the middle of the street, and I'm just like, why am I subjecting myself to this anymore?
Yeah, as much as I love the city and
it's gone to shitty. It's got shitty city now. It's terrible.
It's just not what it was when we were younger too. And people that live there might not. It's not as bad because you're living in it. But like for people that come there, like. I've been, go there every once in a while. Yeah. It's like when you see a kid growing up, you see him, if you see him every day, you don't see him get bigger. But when you see him at 1 year and then you see him at 3 years, you're like, how the fuck did he get so big? That's how the city is for me. It's like, you go there one time, it's like, oh, it's not that bad. Then you come back a year later and it's like, holy fuck.
How did you start smoking crack? Happened? What happened to this kid? He's got one leg. He started smoking rocks.
Yeah, I miss the city.
Life. That being said, your album, I don't know if we touched on it or not, but where was the artwork influence from for the new album, and who did it for you?
So that is actually painted by my older brother.
Oh, wow.
My older brother is an amazing, extremely talented visual artist. I mean, like back in the day, we'd get faded, and I'd sit down with him, and he'd say, Chris, take this paper and just scribble. And I would just scribble the big bird's nest on the paper, right? And he'd be like, watch, I won't lift my pen from the page. And he'd start connecting all those intersecting lines, and all of a sudden it'd start to turn into a painting. Right? The guy's is insane. And he actually painted that when he was stuck sick with COVID, and he was quarantined and locked down in Alaska at one point. And the imagery that's in that, right? If you actually take a look, the guy's dome is shaped like a coronavirus. There's an elephant for the political party standing behind him. There's a Surgeon General's sign that's drilling into his dome. The red and blue motif representing the partisan politics in the U.S. Like that perfectly aligns with how I see things and what I spit a lot about in that album and beyond. So, and he's my brother, right? So it's just the perfect way to do my first album. And my next album, he's also doing the cover for that.
It looks amazing. I'm not even lying. It looks amazing. It looks like your brain explodes with some type of great thought. No, like a great thought, kind of like you're expanding. You're letting the world know, like your full energy you're giving out. It looks like it looks amazing. I love the cover.
I would love to see a track with you and Immortal Technique, because I mean you guys have somewhat similar styles.
Very complimenting.
I would love to see that happen at some point. Hopefully it does. I know you mentioned, kind of listened to him growing up. But this album, it has just a number of features, very prominent artists: Brother Ali, Sage Francis, Myka 9, Mr. Liff, Zion I, Akil from J5. I mean, when you were putting together this album, did you envision collaborating with this many great artists? How long was this in the works?
Well, if you're going to do it right? If you get the shot. And I'm fortunate, this whole thing snowballed well before I even met Sage, and it was spearheaded by Zumbi from Zion I.
So cool.
He is by far one of the biggest. My style is nothing like his, right? I spit really, really raw and aggressive, but Zion I was a huge inspiration for me and a bunch of my homies. His track with Grouch, Silly Putty, is still one of the dopest fucking tracks.
Machine track. Take you back to a certain age, take you back to a certain time, take you back to a year. You knew exactly what you were at that time when you hear Zion I Silly Putty. It's just a good time for sure.
Yeah, man. And I was living in Bali at that time, and a homie living there who I also knew in the Bay Area, he actually grew up in Oakland with Zumbi and his crew and whatnot. So he connected us. I reached out to Zumbi. He was really complimentary. We did a collaboration. And after that, I used it and reached out to Locksmith, who had also collaborated with Zumbi. Then I just started using that to kind of build connections and relevance and all of that. And then I reached out to Sage. And my initial idea was to create a charity album for Bali because the local economy was destroyed during COVID. There's no tourists on the island, right? And Sage, in his infinite wisdom was like, Chris, no one makes money from music anymore. We're not going to raise much money through charity. Why don't we, figure out how to collaborate? And I said, well, can we release this on Strange Famous? And then Sage got his hooks into it, brought in Mopes, and it kind of took on a life of its own,
It's amazing.
It's a beautiful story.
Yeah, the track with Zion I, Zumbi, Sasquatch. I mean, it's so good, and like you said, you guys' styles are very much different, but it creates a true yin and yang. You have Zumbi kicking it off, and then you come in just spitting really fast and hard. I mean, that just great. R.I.P. Zumbi.
Yeah,
justice for Zumbi. We still push the justice for Zumbi movement.
Super down to earth when we met him. Coolest guy, one of the nicest guys. So.
Definitely one of the most positive MCs ever.
Like I said, we say all the time, we just seen him, we had just talked to him, and he passes right after. It's very tragic.
Yeah.
Like one crazy thing about that, for me personally, because again, he's one of my biggest inspirations, is that I think that maybe one of the last fucking track Zumbi's ever had released on a proper record label,
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, and for that to be with me is just...
It's amazing.
Mind-blowing.
I was thinking that too, because I think it is Zumbi's last track. So
the singer on that track, Ariano, who's also from California, is from Southern California. He and my next album, or EP, you could say, we're going to release Strange Famous. He's on every track. He's singing. He produced a lot of the beats. It's a bit of a departure from Sane Asylum, like complementary styles. He's very soulful and brings a little bit more commercial appeal while I still spit some raw shit. So it's pretty dope. You guys will hear it soon.
Are you using everything you're putting out, or are you a lot of stuff on the chopping block when you put something together like this?
Everything I do is a keeper, bro. No, I'm joking. Sage will probably vouch if he's in the comments. I don't know if he's in the comments right now, but I'm recording constantly, right? Like I probably record 3, 4, 5 tracks a week. People hit me with a beat. I'll turn it around in a couple of hours. So I'm sitting on so much material. I'm working on an EP with Sentence, another EP with Mopes and Lee Reed. I did this project with Ariano. I just recorded something yesterday for a collaboration with a guy named Buddy Wakefield, who's like one of the GOAT spoken word champs, 3-time world champion for spoken word. So I'm just constantly putting out material for this particular project. I don't know. I probably recorded over 14 or 15 of these tracks and get Sage's feedback, and we whittle it down to the ones that we really think paint a more cohesive story, right? Because I just like to rap, and sometimes I'll just hear a beat and I'll rap, but it's not really interwoven with some of the other shit that's on the project. So you want it to feel a bit more cohesive, right?
I think everything you put out is good. I mean, I don't think you've missed yet. Your pen game is very sharp. How do you keep it so well sculpted? Are you just writing and rapping every day, or what's your method?
It's gonna sound like I'm flexing, but I'm really not trying to do that. It's just when you've done something for so long, so many times, and I always the natural innate capability for writing. Like that was my strongest subject at school, and I like creative writing and all that. And like I said, like the Oldboy moniker, I was recording by myself forever for a fan base of one for like 15 fucking years, and it's reached the point. I don't think it's just easy for me. That Master Cleanse track you guys covered, you know, I got about 2.5 minutes of bars on there. I wrote that shit in, I don't know, an hour and a half. And so I can just put words together easily now, and the more I do it, the easier it becomes, and it feeds upon itself, right?
It has to. It's a beast. I mean, it's like, and then to get inspired, lately, are you easily inspired? Are you able to sit down and just fucking get into it? Or you got some type of, you know, are you asking the muse to come to you, or you just sit down and you're just going? What's your method to that? How do you fill the bars? You know what I mean? Do you have to is there a certain type, I got to get my smoke on, I got to get a beat on?
Honestly, when you grow up the way I did and see the polarity from Alaska to Indonesia, and I grew up there during 9/11 and the Bush administration, and I've been involved in the response to terrorist attacks. I've known people who've died in terrorist attacks. I lived there when Osama bin Laden murals were being put up on the walls.
Jesus.
We went from the United States to be welcomed with open arms because we propped up their military dictator to all of a sudden Bush is in power and there's this war on terror and the whole blowback. I've seen a lot of these things, and point being, I have enough of a perspective, or at least an opinion, on how fucked up the United States is right now in our current era of history, that I don't need a muse. I just read the news, and every single day I get hit with...
You're fueled. You're fueled.
Yo, man, it's mind-boggling to me. My parents just left the United States again maybe 6 months ago because they decided they can't hang. They're going to retire outside of the U.S. Yeah. My brother left Alaska, as I said, and... I don't know, man. It's a fucked up place. I just watched King Trump berate Zelensky, even though he had Benjamin Netanyahu in the Oval Office not too long ago, and he was, you know, sucking his leathery dick, basically. You know, it's just the level of contradiction and the level of corruption is just so mind blowing to me that I can spit forever about this stuff. I spit venom about the States, but it's because I'm proud to be American. Right? I still think some of the we're a creative country, we're a rebellious country, we innovate a lot.
Oh yeah.
A lot of amazing people there. But I literally grew up around the descendants of the dictators. I went to school with a lot of these people. I've seen corruption at levels you guys can't even fucking imagine. And when you watch the US, who waves a flag of virtue everywhere they go, and you've seen this type of corruption over here, I can see it in the US. It's just legalized corruption, and we put partisan politics around it, but it's the same thing. And so we need to stop beating ourselves on the chest saying they hate us because we're free and that we're the greatest thing in the world. We're fucked up. Like, we're just as fucked up. Let's humble ourselves and let's fix some of the problems. You know?
Well said. Well said.
Yeah, well said.
Yo, as we're winding down here, I know we said we were only going to keep you for 30 minutes, but I just learned about this conspiracy not too long ago. You have Akil, the MC from Jurassic 5 on your album. Have you ever heard the conspiracy that he is truly Tupac?
I knew it.
Have you heard that one?
And if he is Tupac and you know he is, can you just tell us he is? Wink 3 times if he's really Tupac or something. I don't know.
Yeah, he's a projected hologram from a base in Cuba, right?
I believe it.
But yeah, apparently a lot of people believe that Akil is Tupac.
That's a crazy one. I've never heard that one. That's a crazy one.
Did he have that Thug Life tatted on the chest? Secretly. Did he have it tatted secretly? On the belly, on the stomach. So
you say you're a machine putting out music. What's the
when can we expect it?
Yeah, for me it's kind of, you know, SFR has so many different artists on it. There's so many priorities that Sage and Storm and others have to juggle, right? I can't expect them to put out everything that I'm recording constantly, but that's kind of my inner desire.
Yeah.
So I have to learn to be a little bit patient. So this project with Ariano, I think probably around maybe June. I'm thinking of dropping a mixtape maybe after that, because I've got 20 or 30 tracks from random producers and a lot of dope shit there. And then the one with Mopes and Lee Reed, Mopes and I have said we'll get it done this year, so maybe it'll be out before the end of the year.
Yeah, he's another one of those machines. Like, if you're working with him, you guys are working on a good level, because he don't stop, you don't stop. We're gonna get fucking platinum music out for show.
And on that note, I just want to know, just for the YouTube algorithm, just let them know that we're your buddies and we're allowed to play your music. Every once in a while, you know, we might throw a track out there just to warm the show up. We want to play you without getting any trouble. Just give us the okay, and then YouTube knows, and then we're in the zone.
You can play any and all of my music Anytime.
You're the man,
love
dude.
it.
You're the man. Dude.
Yo,
We
one more
appreciate
question
you.
before you go. We had one of our listeners was in the comment section. They want to know who was that pro skater that you grew up with that you talked about who was a famous skater.
Shout out to
Can you
Nick
drop a
Andre.
name?
Yep.
Nick Andre, shout out to the SF producer.
Yeah, Nick. Well, Nick is homies with the guy. That's why he's asking.
Okay, so who is it?
Okay, his name's Jack Curtin.
Oh, Jack Curtin's hard.
Yeah, so I grew up in Jakarta with Jack. He's a bit older than me, but super close homies. We all ended up going to college in San Francisco. Jack, being as talented as he is, I think he dropped out of college after 1 or 2 semesters and has never had to work a regular job in his entire life.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jack's the man. He's
Jack's the man, dude. I remember, I think he was killing it in the street, and then I think he's a good bowl skater, too, if I'm not mistaken.
Are you guys skaters?
I used to skate back in the days. I used to be big into Trans World,
That's where we got
and all that. But I think,
honestly, that's where a lot of the hip hop. I mean, I was put on to like rap music and hip hop, but a lot of like that conscious hip hop, I think we got from skate videos and different sections. People were putting in Hyro and Gangstar and shit, and so you kind of got that vibe from it.
If you want to get a sense of our hip hop kind of skate culture, we had it. I didn't skate. I was a basketball player, but all my homies were skaters. Go into YouTube and type Jack Curtin Dream Sequence or Jack Curtin Amnesia. These are videos of 2 of my closest homies and Jack that skate videos they created when we were in high school in Jakarta. And you listen to the soundtrack, you can hear the type of hip hop we were bumping. It was all underground.
Yeah.
Hip hop. Last crazy story I'll tell you, since I know one of my skater homies, I think he said he's going to join this in the comment section. I knew nothing about skating. It's just all my homies were skaters. Completely randomly, when I was living in San Francisco, I found an apartment on Craigslist. I moved in. It was New Year's Eve. I was sitting by myself on Ocean Beach because this was on 48th Avenue, this spot. Mm-hmm. I went out, smoked a pipe on Ocean Beach. It was high as weed, was high as fuck. Came back into the apartment, and I'm sitting there with these 3 dudes. One of them's Mike York. One of them's Lenny Kirk. And there's this other guy, Gershon Mosley, or something like that.
Okay, hell yeah.
And if you know Lenny Kirk, who I didn't know anything about at that point, this is the skater who went to jail for holding up a taxi with a shotgun, stood up on an airplane and said he's the return of Jesus, and was arrested. The dude had just gotten out of prison, and I was high as fuck. And I'm sitting in a circle with these guys, and he was saying some wild, weird shit. I ended up going to my bedroom and barricading the fucking door. But I lived with those guys for a few months, completely random. These skate legends that I just happened to shack up with.
Oh, wow. Once again, a small world.
Yeah,
what a fucking small world we all live in.
On top of that, before you go, last one. What does hip-hop mean to you?
So in the part of the world I live, hip-hop is it's obviously super popular. It's popular globally, right? But I see a lot of artists out here who are emulating what they see take root in the States on a commercial level. Like everyone's sounding like Drake. They got auto-tune in their steez. They're using American slang and terminology. They have no idea what the fuck it actually means. And I try to impart on some of these people. To me, hip-hop is where you put voice against unfair power dynamics. It's speaking truth to power. It's representing something that actually is real. It's about justice. It grew up out of a street culture where they had to create art organically when they did not have access to many instruments or music programs. So it's about like putting your word and your pin game down to hopefully making the world a better place and shedding light on new perspectives, right? Which is why I try to spit about shit that matters to me, spit about my life, things that I think. I've partied more than most people on planet Earth, but you're not going to find me out there spitting about strippers and shit. It doesn't do anything for me. Yeah. So for me, hip hop is a vessel for spreading messages.
Well said.
I like that. Very well said.
Yo, thank you so much for joining us. I know it's Saturday morning over there. Over here it's Friday night, so
yeah,
a lot of difference in the hours.
Can I ask you this? What are the lottery numbers? I know you're in the future.
I'm
not joking. I know you're living in the future. So between us boys,
we got to talk. We were lucky enough to talk to Afu Ra, who was in the
future as well.
He was in the Czech Republic at the time
as well,
and he was on a Saturday while we were on a Friday. And my friend here thinks that they're time traveling. You're not time traveling. You're just in a different time
Just
zone.
tell me if anything bad's gonna happen tomorrow in America that I need to know today. I just want to know because I know it's Saturday. These guys don't believe in time travel, but I know you're Saturday over there. So tell me about Saturday.
All I'll say about the lottery number is my son.
Oh, jeez, I thought he was gonna really give me lottery numbers. What a thug!
My son's name is Trey, which means 3. So whatever lottery number you pick, put a lot of the number 3 in.
There you go.
Last thing for me is what I'm rocking right now. This is called batik. It's Indonesian traditional clothing. I swear to God, I'm going to bring batik to American hip hop culture. You look up batik. Nelson Mandela was famous for wearing all of his colorful clothes. That was Indonesian batik that he would export to South Africa.
You look like a UFC champion of the world. You look like a McGregor. It's like a UFC. You look like the next UFC fighter that's coming up. It looks good.
No, but it looks comfortable more than anything. Cozy, What's the thread count on that thing? That thing looks comfortable.
You could back fucking fist somebody with that fucker and it won't even rip. That's how sweet it looks.
I'll send you guys some batik.
Yeah.
Oh, we would love it, brother.
Hell yeah,
You're the man, dude.
You're
the man.
And shout out to Trey.
Thank you so much.
Shout out to Trey.
Yeah, shout out Trey. Trey, get better. We hope you feel better in the rest of the day. Thank you so much for spending your morning with us. We really appreciate it. We're huge fans, and we can't wait to hear all the new music, and we'll continue to bump it on here and tell people how much fucking we love you. And
shout out to you and your brother, man. Your brother, the painter. Hopefully he does way more with his painting, too, and we wish you guys the best of luck, man. Thank you so much.
If you guys know any animators who know how to take like static painting and put animation behind it, that's who we need so my brother and I can properly collaborate. So hook us up, anybody watching. Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Like, your support is like super appreciated.
You're the man, dude. We appreciate you.
Yo, let's give it up for the one, the only Oldboy Rhymes.
Thank you, brother. Safe Francis, Strange Famous.
Keep it strange, brother.
Peace.